We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It's Thursday, been kind of a busy week. Lots of shit to talk about. Today might be a momentous day, at least for some folks anxious to hear the podcast that I'm going to record with Jeff underscore HVAC underscore 69 later tonight. Scheduled about 9 o'clock my time, 7 o'clock his time. Now, he's an unabashed, unapologetic, dumbass Trumplafuck. He's kind of a cocky young man. He's probably in his mid-30s, got a little narcissism going for him. And I really don't know how to read this guy. I've only emailed with him back and forth, watched some of his videos. The videos I've been unimpressed by. He doesn't really have any facts. He just likens himself to be a talker. He's kind of like Donald Trump in that way. He talks a lot, but doesn't really say much. Now, I think a lot of people are excited to hear this. And I want to warn you ahead of time. I personally don't think it may be as great as you expect, because guys like this usually demur pretty quickly once they're put in their place. I mean, they always count on being in control of the conversation. I can guarantee you that's not going to happen here. I know the fucking game and I can play the game with him. And I think I can beat him at it. I mean, I've got facts, truth, the law. He's got a loud mouth. So those people aren't usually hard to beat. I will tell you this, the times I have talked to Trump LaFox, it's a weird situation, because this kid, he might even seem likable in that he's just putting on a show. And I can get somebody just putting on a show. He insists that he's not, but I don't know. It seems like he's this whole thing about being the greatest debater on TikTok. He knows he's not. He knows he's not. He's got 6,000 fucking followers. But it's kind of a Muhammad Ali thing. I'm going to act real confident. I'm going to be cocky, and that's going to be my way to get into people's heads. And frankly, that doesn't get into my head. That just pisses me off. There are times when I talk to people that I don't agree with, and I can hold back a little bit. But there are times when I talk to Trump LaFox, they just anger me because they talk about things and make light of things that I think are very important. It's one thing if he just disagreed with me. Okay, I can play him along. I can do that. But people like him are supporting other people that are trying to destroy this country, destroy the future, which is not my concern as much as it is for my kids and my grandkids. When you start fucking with my kids and my grandkids, now I'm pissed off. So I'm hoping I don't get too rough on them, but I probably will, because people like this deserve it. I mean, if they're going to fucking play around and if they're going to put on a little show just for their own benefit, but at the cost of this country, sorry, I'm not going to hold back. The main thing is to take control of the conversation. I will do that up front in a number of ways, and we'll see how he does. I'm not real confident that he can handle it, but what the hell? Maybe I'll teach him a lesson. Now, some people are saying, well, maybe he'll beat you. No, that's not possible. First of all, it's my show. Second of all, I'm right and he's wrong. And third of all, he's 35 and I'm 63 and I have a lot more experience debating and talking to people. If he beats me, I deserve to get my ass kicked. So anyway, that's coming up tonight at 9 o'clock. Assuming it starts at 9 o'clock, assuming he shows up. I suspect he will. He's all about getting views and listens and stuff like that. And I can give more than that than he can get. Assuming he shows up, we'll go from about 9 till maybe 10 at the most, if he can hold on that long. And then as soon as it's done, I'll put it together. I'll put it up. It'll go on and available for consumption right after midnight. And then we can see how it all goes down. Should be fun. Should be a lot of fun. Anyhow, we've got some emails to get to tonight. So let's do that. Hi, Boomer. That guy Burchett, who McCarthy kidney elbowed, is a guy who looks changed dramatically with and without a beard. But isn't that the same cat who leaned in about an inch from Matt Gaetz and seemingly extorted him live on TV to change his vote on McCarthy to a yes in the 15th round? He must be a real wise guy. Best garage door Jeff. I don't know if that guy did that. I've still got the cough. Got a whole fucking towel. I got to cover up here so nobody else gets sick. But anyway, I remember Kevin McCarthy leaning in on Gates and kind of intimidating him a little bit. I don't know much about this Burchett. I know he's one of the eight, the crazy eight, that is the people that kicked McCarthy out. So I don't know. He could have been. He could have been. But if he was McCarthy's buddy, he wouldn't have been one of the eight that kicked him out. So I don't fucking know. I think it's hilarious that these people are fighting amongst themselves and fighting with witnesses. You know, of course, we had this Markwayne Mullen, this guy who's a wealthy CEO and likens himself to a mixed martial arts fighter, not a real tall guy. And I guess he's self conscious about his height. And he had a little dust up with Sean O'Brien, who was the leader of the Teamsters. They've been going back and forth, calling each other names. And Markwayne Mullen was upset about it because he's got a fucking ego the size of that whole House of Representatives. He couldn't handle it. So they start going back and forth. Markwayne Mullen says, we can finish it right here. And Sean O'Brien says, cool, let's do it. And then Markwayne Mullen says, stand your butt up, which is kind of a weird, cringy thing to say. If you're going to be cool and you're going to fight somebody, that's not what you say. Don't refer to a guy's butt. I'm just saying that's not a wise choice of words. So Sean O'Brien then says, you stand your ass up. Stand your butt up. You should have said ass. That's way cooler. But he said, stand your butt up. So he stands up like he's some tough guy. He goes to his wedding ring like he's going to pull it off. And it appears as though he's going to walk over and try to fight with this guy. Of course, Bernie Sanders pops in and says, sit down. Act like a fucking U.S. senator. And Bernie was right. But it would have been cool to see the fight. Here's the thing I don't understand about Markwayne Mullen. Okay, you're a tough guy. You're a short guy. You're from Oklahoma. Maybe you've got some mixed martial arts training. But you're really going to go fight a guy who's well over 6 feet tall and well over 200 pounds, who happens to be an Irish guy from Massachusetts, who also happens to be the leader of the Teamsters? I don't think that's wise. Heads of unions are notably tough guys. And if not them, the people who follow them, people around them. And I don't even know if these unions are mobbed up anymore, but if they are, Markwayne Mullen, I would look behind me all the time because you pissed off the wrong motherfucker. So anyway, the thing about it is we're going to see more of this as time goes on. It's going to get rougher on the Republicans, not only with the division in the Republican Party, but the imminent indictments coming from four sitting members of Congress. You've got Mike Johnson, who went against MAGA, and they're all saying, well, the clock is ticking, but we're not going to get him this time, but he better get in shape. Even the MAGA fucks knew that they had to get this done so the country wouldn't be shut down. They just like talking shit and acting tough. But they would have caved too, just like Mike Johnson did, just like I told you he would. Fucking caved. He had no choice. He either caved and lost in the minds of MAGA or stuck to his guns, stuck with MAGA, and destroyed his entire party, which is probably already done anyway. So I don't know if he had much to lose, but he had to think about it and he had to go the right way. And then he has to try to explain it. Well, no, I'm just setting up the fight. Shut up. Sit down, Mike Johnson. You don't know fuck all about fuck all. So shut up. All right, the next email. Hey, Mike, was reading an article on the Hill about how the rich keep trying to fuck over the middle class and those on so-called government entitlements. Nikki Haley got a call from Jamie Dimon offering his endorsement and to be sure to screw over the non-rich. Haley has gone up on the polls due to what the media called clarity on abortion. I have seen a few so-called independent pundits saying she would not be a bad choice to be elected. This article is just another example of who she would represent if elected, the rich. The less fortunate are always expected to receive the cuts, not the rich. I see so many non-rich support this BS by voting Republican. Folks need to pay attention. She is no different and definitely no compassionate conservative that don't fucking exist. Is Joe Biden perfect? No, but he's fighting for the middle class and not taking direction from Wall Street. I'm looking forward to your debate with the so-called greatest debater ever, then Ed. Keep up the great job, my friend. Jace from Texas. Well, thank you very much. It's funny about Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley is getting a little bit of momentum, and mainly because when you have one person that's somewhat reasonable in a cast of fucking crazies like the Republicans are, she looks better than she is. But the important thing you have to remember about Nikki Haley, she was once a Trump humper. She was representative to the UN, appointed by Donald Trump, Donald Trump's buddy. Even if she's not as bad as Donald Trump, you have to question her integrity if she was willing to bend and support Donald Trump when she wanted to get some self-enrichment. She's not a good person. And I'm convinced, I don't see how she becomes the speaker, or not the speaker, the candidate for president for the Republicans. First, she's a woman, and then she's of East Indian descent. This is all red flags to Republicans. They need an old white guy. And if not Donald Trump, who is that going to be? Chris Christie, maybe? I don't know. Chris Christie's pissed on a lot of Republicans so far. Again, a lot of people see him as more reasonable too, but he was a friend of Donald Trump and he was a Trump humper too. You're going to see a lot of people try to step back from Donald Trump and act like they never had anything to do with him. As far as I'm concerned, if you had any time supported Donald Trump, you're either stupid or complicit. And both these clowns were both complicit with Donald Trump. So fuck them. Actually, the whole stage is kind of complicit just by virtue of not speaking out and speaking against Donald Trump. Chris Christie is doing that, but his history tells us something different. All right, the next email. Hi, Mike. It's getting a little cold here in Cumberland, Rhode Island. I'm sure not as cold as in Minnesota. Actually, it was 60 today. It was fucking beautiful. I went there for the Super Bowl in 2017 when my Patriots lost to the Eagles. It was Russia cold in Minneapolis. It was around minus 24 degrees. Yeah, you don't want to come here in the deep winter. Some days are decent. It could be 20, 30 degrees and it's not so bad. But you get those days where you get the heavy snow and the sub-zero temperatures and it sucks. If you've never been to Minnesota and you're coming to Minnesota during the winter, I'll just give you one tip to remember. Do not stick your tongue on the fucking monkey bars because you will not get it off. I say that because that's a common problem for a lot of little kids in this state. I know when I was a little kid, I did it, ripped the shit out of my tongue. Every little kid does it. So if you're somehow tempted about doing that, don't fucking do it. It's pretty fucked up. The email goes on. I listen to your podcast as I do my walk with my dog named Stella. What up, Stella? I do 4 miles, which is about the time it take for your show to run. I am most likely one of the youngest boomers that listen to your show. I was born on November 22nd, 1963. Not the best day in American history, but it's still my birthday. November 22nd. It's coming up in about, 6 days? So happy birthday in advance. But November 22nd, 1963, of course, is the day John F. Kennedy was murdered in Dealey Plaza in Dallas, Texas. That's a weird thing to be, a weird day to be born under. Goes on to say, when do you think superseding indictments will ever come out? Who would be indicted? And if it's Ginny Thomas, does Justice Thomas need to step down or resign? Trump's time is short, and he sees the inside of the jail cell in his sleep. The question is, how do you house a former president as a convict? They may house him in his own wing in a federal or state prison. Trump's hubris of thinking that he's above the law is breathtaking. He lacks any limits and needs to be put away and his mouth shut up forever. Good luck with the Trumplefuck tomorrow night. Youngest boomer, Chris. Well, thank you, Chris. Superseding indictments. I was talking to somebody about that recently, and I don't know. First, I thought they would come out quickly, and they haven't come out quickly. Hopefully, they come out soon. I'm trying to decide whether they come out before or after the start of the trial with Donald Trump in March. I don't know really what the strategy would be there. The sooner, the better. I've said all along, the faster he comes out with the superseding indictments and the likes of Ginny Thomas and the sitting members of Congress and Roger Stone and others, once they do that, that will quiet things down a little bit. These people will be too worried about their own asses to be sticking up for Donald Trump or causing problems. They're going to go quiet real quickly because they're going to see the prospect of seeing the inside of a jail cell as well. I think Ginny Thomas, without a doubt, has to get an indictment. She was deep into this whole process from the attack on the Capitol to the fake electors and all that shit. She was in meeting after meeting at the White House, at the Mayflower Hotel. She was in the thick of it. She was interacting with Mark Meadows. And remember, Mark Meadows is flipping on Donald Trump, but he's not just flipping on Donald Trump. He's flipping on everybody that tried to communicate with Donald Trump because they all had to go through him first. So if they have his texts and his emails and shit, that's going to expose a lot of people for the things they said and did leading up to and on January 6th and maybe even after January 6th. So Ginny Thomas is going to get it. I don't have any question. As far as when the superseding indictments come out, I don't know. I don't know what the strategy is, but I'm hoping against hope that it's fucking quick because I think I'll do a nice job of settling things down and quieting motherfuckers down in the in Congress. And I'd just like to see these people nervous and spinning around. It'll take away a lot of their interest in doing other damage because frankly they're still doing that. They're doing a lot of damage in this country because they think they've got a free and clear path. Now, they aren't paying attention if that's what they think. They are in some deep shit and Jack Smith ain't fucking around. All right, the next email. Hey, Mike, two things. First off, I'm looking forward to the debate, but understand these MAGAs live in an alternate universe. Oh, I know. No matter how badly you pick him apart, he's going to claim victory. I'm sure you've experienced this firsthand in the past. Just wanted to let you know. As we know, Donnie Douche is now claiming Judge Engeron is biased and there should be a mistrial. That's right. He issued a motion for a mistrial. I am not concerned with his antics, but I'm curious. Is there any way he can get this in front of our incredibly corrupt Supreme Court? If he can, the writing is on the wall. I'm moving to Canada. Take care, Paul. No, I don't think they can do that. I think that's the judge's call. You know, the only thing where it could come into an appeal is after this trial's done. That's the interesting thing. He could ask for a mistrial. Judge says no, but that doesn't mean he gets to bring it up to the appeals court and appeals court. He would have to bring it up after this trial is over. You know, another thing to remember, once he's convicted, they don't have to let him stay out of jail while on appeal. They don't have to. And depending on what he does, and I'm guessing if he gets a conviction, he's going to be squealing like a pig. They may put him in jail just to shut him up. At that point, the conviction is made. What are you going to do? Now, at that point, he might appeal it, probably will appeal it. But you got to have something to substantiate the appeal. And Donald Trump's not good with coming up with substantive shit. Everything is bullshit and emotion and reactionary. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that. Next email. Hey, Mike, this may be one of the longest emails I've ever wrote, and it may take a minute to get to the point. First of all, I'm not trying to get any pity or sympathy. It's been a rough few months. In August, I lost my Carlo dog. He was 11. Then a couple of weeks ago, I lost one of my best friends of more than 40 years. I get it. I've lost friends, and dogs are a hard one. I love dogs. I love all dogs more than most people. I'm just saying. So my condolences for the loss of your dog and your friend. And on the same day, my daughter's friend, who was only 30, died of cancer. And yesterday, I took my puppy, 16 weeks old, to have a simple procedure, and he coded after receiving anesthesia. Now, my point is, we only have a teeny window here on Earth. I just need a solid roof over my head, enough food on my table, a few solid friends, and a family to share life's journey with. So why is it that most people need so much more? There's a small group of people who have so much more and work far less and earn it. And we work so hard to earn so much for them. I'm not suggesting some crazy socialistic idea, but why are the folks working the most and the hardest support a suit in an office that ain't doing shit? We need to get the blue-collar Trump Republicans to stop being hoodwinked by the Black Lives Matter and trans and guns, and don't get me started about abortion. At the same time, this group of Republicans want to destroy Social Security and Medicare food stamps. They have no problem with folks homeless unless they can use it as a talking point of why we are giving money to Ukrainians rather than the homeless here in the U.S. They really just want to put it in the defense budget so they can grift the money into their own pockets. Come on, people. We only live for a short period of time. We can all live a decent life if we wanted to. This email might have seemed like I was rambling, but it gave me a minute to focus on something else. Take care of those grandbabies, Jeff from Ohio. Now, you weren't rambling, Jeff. That was a very poignant email, and I appreciate it. And you make a good point. That's one lesson I've learned as I've gotten older, and I've told you about it here. You know, when you're a young man and you got more testosterone than brain cells, you want to be rich, famous, have all these toys and all this shit. So now I'm 63, essentially retired, and I'm not rich and famous. I don't have a ton of toys, but you know what I do? I do have a peace of mind. I have enough money to pay my bills and do pretty much whatever I want, you know, within reason. I'm not rich, so I'm not buying a chateau in France, but, you know, I've got enough to do the things I want to do, enjoy life, go out to dinner with my wife, go on trips or whatever. And I realized that after all those years worrying about how to have all this money and all this notoriety, that having just enough is pretty cool. I mean, there's not a lot of stress involved. I don't have to worry about a lot of things. And in these lives that we live, it can be very stressful. You know, when you're a kid, it's kind of fun. You're fancy free. You do whatever you want to do. But the moment you get out of college, you get married, you get a job, It seems like you spend the next 30, 40 years juggling everything in your life, struggling to get that leg up, to keep up with the Joneses. It's a lot of work. It's very stressful. And oftentimes it doesn't work. And as I look back at that now, I think to myself, I could have made life a lot easier on me if I didn't put the pressure on myself, having outrageous expectations of myself. Now, don't get me wrong. You got to be confident. You got to shoot for big goals, but you can't kill yourself if you don't reach those big goals. Turns out now that I'm 63, I don't have to be rich. I don't have to have 10 cars. It wouldn't make a difference to me if I did. Who cares? I barely drive the car I got now. So you're absolutely right. We should take time to appreciate what we've got. And there are a lot of people out there struggling. And I do have compassion for those folks. And the reason we have that problem in this country is because the wealthy are greedy motherfuckers. They never have enough. They're constantly trying to grift more money. And where do they go to get that money? Fucking middle class. And that's what always amazed me. They keep going to the well, to the middle class, taking more and more away from the middle class. Well, what happens when they break that middle class? Where are they going to get their money from? Where are they going to grift from? See, they can't even see that in their own fucking minds, that they're so greedy that they're going to kill themselves in the end. When it comes to politics, when it comes to government, it's all about money. The people who have money get to do whatever they want. The people who don't have money just get more money stolen from them. This is a big problem. And this is a problem that's been going on for years and years and decades, and since the beginning of time. This is something we have to change. If we hope our kids and grandkids have good futures, we need to change it, because the rich and the government keep trying to take more and more away from us. Now, you can call it socialism or whatever, but if it's wrong to want the middle class to get something for their investment, meaning their taxes. See, this is the one thing I always argue with Republicans about. Well, we can't pay the middle class because of this and this and this, and we got to give the money to the rich. I always ask them this. If you're an investor, right, and you invest in something, what is the most important thing to you once you invest in whatever you're investing in? And they all say the same thing, and I'll say it too. You expect some return. Of course you do. So why is it so offensive for us to pay the taxes we do, to struggle day to day, some of us living paycheck to paycheck, to expect something in return from people who were elected to serve us? Seems like a fucking simple deal. But we've got wealthy people and government officials who have brainwashed people. No, we got to do the trickle down. No, we got to give the rich people the break. No, we've got to give gas subsidies when they're making record profits. How does that make sense? Let's give somebody who's successful more money. Fuck that. There's got to come a time when this country actually works for the people who put them where they are. And that's going to take some pressure. And that's why I say, even if we get the Republicans eradicated after this 2024 election, we still got some asses to kick. And the Democrats are deserving of getting their asses kicked. We need to keep the pressure on, and we need them to know that we're watching them. And if they fuck up, they gone. All right. Next email. This one comes from Mike, sometimes known as Z-Man. Hello, Mike. I'm your latest new fan and enjoy and find great comfort from your podcast and hot takes. I always keep hearing people saying hot takes. What does that mean? I don't know what a hot take is. Anyway, probably because of my age and anxiety left over from the first administration, I have real worries about a new Trump administration. Question: do you think Democrats will turn on Biden because of his support of Israel? It's got me thinking and worried. There's a lot of variables out there that could cost Biden the presidency. Another Trump administration will open Pandora's box in this country. Thanks for your common sense and honesty, Z-Man Mike. I can tell you're a new listener because I've addressed this before, but I think it's an important thing to address, so I will tell you what I think. And I base this on facts and logic, not on a gut feeling or some psychic connection. And that's how whenever I suggest something's going to happen, it's all about logic and facts. So anyway, first of all, Mike, I will tell you this. Don't worry about Donald Trump getting another presidency or another administration. It's not going to happen. There's no way it can fucking happen. If he becomes the nominee and the candidate for the Republican Party in the 2024 election, good. Because Joe Biden will kick his ass. He kicked his ass in 2020, and it's going to be worse in 2024. Just trust me on that. You're wondering about people, too many people getting angry about Joe Biden's stance on Israel and Hamas. I will tell you this, Mike. In my estimation, you're worried about a Republican talking point. Is there some people that are mad at Joe Biden about siding with Israel? He's got no choice. They are our ally. That's his job. That's what he needs to do. But the Republicans would have you believe, and make no mistake, that's where this message comes from. They would have you believe that all these young people are going to go against Joe Biden because he's standing with Israel. You really buy that shit? Really? I mean, you just think about this for a second. So they're mad at Joe Biden. So instead, their opposite choice would be a guy that tried to overthrow the country, took abortion rights away from all these young people, took a constitutional right away from women, who is soft on guns, and their kids are getting killed in their schools. You really think they're going to make that choice? No. Common sense and logic would tell you that's not the case. You know who would tell you that story? Fucking Republicans. And that's what they're doing. And if you listen to that shit, I'm going to assign you to go back and listen to the last 10 podcasts like 10 times over. We're going to drum it into your head if we have to. So, no, Donald Trump is not going to be president. People are not going away from Joe Biden in droves because he stood with Israel. That's just the bullshit. It's like the polls. It's like the polls. They told you that Joe Biden would lose to Donald Trump in 5 swing states by 4%. What they didn't tell you about that poll also was that these people were also asked, what happens if Donald Trump is convicted? Then you know what happens? Then 14% more people go for Joe Biden and he wins. What do you think the odds are that he's going to get a conviction? 100%. So that first poll means nothing because the second question just does away with the first. There are people that spend their days figuring out how they can make people worry about 2024. And they do this because it's the only option they have left. The Republicans are in bad shape. They're not only going to have trouble with the presidential election, but the Senate and the House, and they know this. The Republicans are known for doing this kind of shit. Just remember this. Their only strategy for every presidential election is the same thing. 2016, what was their strategy? Smear Hillary Clinton. 2020, what was their strategy? Try to get dirt on Joe Biden out of Ukraine. Smear Joe Biden. 2024, what's their strategy? To try to smear Joe Biden and get him impeached. That's all they got. So the idea that they would come out with these messages, maybe Russian bots or whatever, and say, oh, all the young people are mad at Joe because he stands with Israel. I know young people. I've got 2 millennials that are sons. They don't know what's going on in Israel any more than I do. And I've been alive a lot longer and seen more of these wars. What they are is scared. A lot of people are scared, and that is going to be the pivot point for voters in this country. That's what happened in 2020. You ask yourself, why did we get 81 million people voting for Joe Biden and 73 million voting for Donald Trump? The biggest, most attended election we've ever had, because people were fucking scared. You think they're any less scared now? I think they're more scared. I think we'll see a bigger turnout, and the beating that the Republicans will get will be like something we've never seen before. You don't even have to say, well, if the Republicans get in, they're going to do this and do that. They've already done a lot of shit, and people aren't liking it. If for no other reason than the abortion issue, that's the one thing that sinks it for the Republican Party. It did it to them in 2022. It's going to do it to them in 2024. So stop fucking worrying. Don't quit talking. Don't quit pushing. Don't get cocky. But I'm telling you, there's no way Donald Trump can be president again, ever. All right, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. I got to be honest, the cold is getting better. It's not great. It's still there. I still have various coughing jags here and there, but what the fuck are you going to do? You're going to cough. I'm an old man. Hell, I cough when I don't have a cold. So what the fuck? That's what I've always done here with the Rational Boomer. It's warts and all. It's warts and all. You got to take me for what I am. Anyway, you remember the story from yesterday where I was talking about how two deposition videos were leaked from the Georgia case, Fani Willis's case down in Georgia. And the depositions were of Sidney Powell and what's her name? Jenna Ellis. And these were pretty damning tapes. And we were thinking, okay, why would Fani Willis release this? Well, she didn't. She didn't do it at all. She didn't like the fact that it happened, and in fact issued a motion to put a protection order on all evidence in the case. Now, I presumed that meant that Donald Trump's lawyers somehow released it. Makes sense. Well, it didn't really make sense, but they're not the sharpest fuckers in the world. So the presumption was that they released this tape, even though it was damning for Donald Trump. I mean, really damning for Donald Trump, because it pretty much illustrates his intent in this whole matter, which pretty much shuts it down for him. But the presumption was that he put it out there to try to intimidate future witnesses. That would be an interesting strategy, and probably too smart for Donald Trump and his lawyers to figure out, because it turns out it wasn't Donald Trump's lawyers that leaked this thing. It wasn't them. An attorney for one of former President Donald Trump's co-defendants in Georgia's election interference case admitted Wednesday to having leaked videos for testimony from several other co-defendants that appear to indicate what lengths Trump was prepared to go to in order to stay in power. You remember what those videos said. Mark Meadows, Jenna Ellis, Dan Scavino basically said that Donald Trump's attitude about this was, I don't care what happens. I'm not leaving. I'm going to hold my breath. I'm going to stay in power, like some kind of dictator might say. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. The former president allegedly intended to simply refuse to leave the White House, according to former Trump attorney Jenna Ellis, whose videotape interview was among those shared with the news media. Damn. So anyway, it wasn't Donald Trump's attorneys. Jonathan Miller, an attorney representing former election official Misty Hampton, made the confession during an emergency hearing called by Fulton County Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee. Misty Hampton was an election supervisor in Coffee County, with all that where Trump's team went in and stole data and all that shit. He explained that he acted in Hampton's best interest. How that's Hampton's best interest, I don't know. Now, Miller said this is one of the biggest cases the country has had, and the transparency is very important. So you thought it was a good idea to take evidence and troll it out to everybody in the fucking world. Adding that his client also places a high value on transparency. That's well and good, but you don't break the rules of a fucking court. Now, in being transparent with the court and to make sure that nobody else gets blamed for what happened, and so I can go to sleep well tonight, Judge, I did release those videos to one outlet. You release it to one outlet, what the fuck do you think is going to happen? You know better than that. McAfee said, I appreciate the candor. The judge indicated, however, that he would issue a protective order as requested by Fulton County prosecutors, which would specifically bar discovery materials from being made public. He cited the need to keep the jury pool as untainted as possible. Now, Miller did not offer details about how he saw the leaks as beneficial to Hampton. Probably doesn't have an explanation for that, but she was the elections director in the Coffee County, Georgia in 2020. He said that to hide those proffers that show all the underlying things that went on into those pleas, it misleads the public about what's going on. Now, I think we know exactly what the fuck went on. It's a very, very public trial. We all know that, the lawyer said. That allows the DA office to set the tone for the entire trial without giving consideration to the other side of the coin. And that's what needs protecting, Judge. The public has the right to know. Well, they will know when the fucking trial starts. ABC News was the first to publish snippets of the videos, which recorded interviews Georgia prosecutors held with co-defendants who had agreed to plead guilty. These are the people that flipped in exchange for lighter sentences with the condition that they proffer information in the case. The videos obtained by ABC were of interviews with Ellis and Sidney Powell, another former attorney of Trump, on Monday. Hours later, the Washington Post reported on videos from Ellis, Powell, Kenneth Chesebro, and former bail bondsman Scott Hall. So they put them all out there. The videos seemingly bolster the prosecutor's case against Trump, who was named among 18 other defendants in the sprawling racketeering case. The former president, of course, is accused of attempting to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. Now, in her video, Ellis recounted a December 2020 conversation with Dan Scavino when the White House deputy chief of staff about Trump leaving the White House. And Scavino said to me, said Ellis, in a kind of excited tone, well, we don't care and we're not going to leave. Way to go, Dan. Dan was once a caddy. Then he was the head of social media. And then all of a sudden he's deputy chief of staff. Only the best people are the people that Donald Trump hires. And Jenna Ellis went on to say, what do you mean? And he said, well, the boss, meaning President Trump, the boss is not going to leave under any circumstances. You know, it's funny. On that day before the inauguration, we talked about it here on the podcast, on TikTok. What if Donald Trump just doesn't leave? And people would say, oh, that's crazy. He'd never do that. But apparently he was thinking about it. You know what I'm saying? She said, Scavino told her we're just going to stay in power. And I said to him, well, it doesn't quite work that way, you realize. And he says, we don't care. Well, isn't that adorable? Powell told interviewers in her proffer video that she had been in the room on multiple occasions when White House staffers told Trump that he lost the 2020 election, adding to the evidence uncovered by House investigators that Trump was well informed of the veracity of the election results. Now, Powell said she did not believe Trump lost and thought she could help him remain president. Asked why Trump listened to her legal advice over that of the White House counsel, Powell said, because we were the only ones willing to support his effort to sustain the White House. I mean, everybody else was telling him to pack up and go, which was the right advice. In a more specific way, as to why Donald Trump listened to Sidney Powell, Rudy Giuliani, and the like, it's because they told him what he wanted to hear. Whether it was accurate or not made no difference. They told him that it was possible to stay, so he was willing to give them room to try to do it. Now, these people who said that he could stay, that he had the right to stay, were only doing this for their self-enrichment, to get in better with Donald Trump. They figured at this point, Donald Trump could pave the way to a lot of things for them. Well, it looks like they made the wrong motherfucking choice, isn't it? Now, we can tell that Donald Trump is getting a little frantic. He's trying to pull out the stops in every situation. He's got court cases coming from all directions. So former President Trump has filed for a mistrial in his civil fraud case in New York, accusing the judge overseeing the trial of being biased against him. It's interesting, isn't it? He wants a mistrial because the judge is biased, and who's the person that decides whether to grant the mistrial? The fucking judge. Nice move, Donnie. Yeah, that's going to work. In a motion filed Wednesday, Trump's attorney said that Judge Arthur Engoron should declare a mistrial because of his tangible and overwhelming bias against the 2024 candidate. So probably more than anything, they're setting this up. They're doing it for an appeal. They can say, well, we thought it was so bad and this judge was doing such a bad job. We even mentioned it in a trial. See, right here. So give us the appeal. That may be part of it too. Now, since the trial began 7 weeks ago, Trump has repeatedly accused Engoron and his law clerk of bias, sparring with the judge over the former president's typical chaotic behavior in court. At one point, Engoron placed Trump under a gag order after Trump began making disparaging comments on social media about Engoron's clerk. Earlier this month, Trump took the stand in his fraud trial after losing an appeal and attempted to turn his testimony into a campaign opportunity by claiming he's the victim of political persecution. Engoron told Trump to keep his answers on the stand concise, reminding him the courtroom is not a political rally. The motion accuses Engoron of unfairly placing the gag order, making biased comments during the trial, and working too closely with a law clerk who is donated to the past organization that Trump's attorneys allege support New York attorney Letitia James. A spokesperson for James said the motion to declare a mistrial is another example of Trump trying to dismiss the truth and facts. There is simply no room at the bench for such open and obvious I don't know that I know how to pronounce this word. It's spelled INDICIA, indicia of bias. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know these big fucking words. The motion by Trump's attorney reads, indeed, left unchecked, the introduction of such demonstrable pro-attorney general and anti-Trump big real estate bias into a case of worldwide interest involving the frontrunner for the presidency of the United States impugns the integrity of the entire system. Nice sentence, but it's bullshit. And you're not going to get a mistrial. And I think you know you're not going to get a mistrial. Now, in addition to Trump's motion, Representative Elise Stefanik a Republican from New York, a representative, filed an ethics complaint last week against Engoron, accusing the judge of exhibiting bizarre behavior and clear judicial bias against Trump. Stefanik, who was the first Republican to endorse Trump in 2024's election, called for Engoron to recuse himself from the case. Here's the interesting thing. At least Stefanik has no authority, no jurisdiction, no reason to even ask for this. It's fucking obnoxious, and I'm sure the judge is not going to take a liking to this. Now, according to CNN, Engoron has already signaled that he plans to deny the motion. Big surprise. Initially advising Trump's legal team that they should not file it before saying they can file it in writing. The civil fraud case is one in 4 indictments Trump is currently facing. See, that's the thing. As I say, either way he goes, he's getting hit with something, whether it be Florida, whether it be Georgia, whether it be Washington, D.C. or New York. Don't forget about the Stormy Daniels case. I know we were talking about yesterday, we were talking about what Fani Willis said. She thought the case would go beyond the election. A lot of people are upset about that. Don't be upset about that. First of all, we don't know for sure that's going to happen. She's speculating on this, but anything can happen between now and then. But it doesn't matter. The DC case starts in March. It'll be done by early summer at the longest. We've got the one in New York with Alvin Bragg. I think that's starting March or April too. That'll be done by summer. This lawsuit is going to be done in a month, and he'll be destroyed financially. If the documents case and the Georgia case extend out a ways, it doesn't really matter. There's enough to take Donald Trump down. The upside to the Georgia case taking longer is this. When the Georgia case starts, and if it's going past the election, here's what you got to understand. The Georgia case is going to be on TV every motherfucking day. Every time they're in court, it's going to be on TV. So from now to the election and beyond, Donald Trump is going to be ripped apart on fucking television. That's a positive in my book. Now, despite several other Republicans joining the primary, the former president remains by far the leading candidate. Republican National Committee Chair Ronna McDaniel said that the body would support Trump if voters choose him as the nominee. And like I've said, people are scared to death that he's going to be president, but you were scared to death in 2020 as well. That fear paid off well because Joe Biden beat him by 7 or 8 million votes. Don't worry about that shit. It'll be fine. Well, Hunter Biden's back in the news, you know, all those crimes he committed and all that intense investigations. And now he's still going to trial for a variety of things. He got off on the gun charge, but he's still got some other issues to contend with. Well, Hunter Biden's not without some tricks himself. And what he decided to do is very interesting. Hunter Biden's legal team has requested to subpoena former President Donald Trump and 3 former senior justice officials for evidence that they say proves Biden's ongoing criminal prosecution is purely vindictive and politically motivated. So it's Donald Trump, William Barr, Jeffrey Rosen, who was the interim AG after Barr left. And there's going to be some other people too. Remember what happened when Donald Trump was last subpoenaed? He was suing Michael Cohen, and he was subpoenaed by Michael Cohen because Michael Cohen knew what the fuck was up. And what did Donald Trump do? He dropped the case. Now, in this situation, Donald Trump can't drop this case. It's not his case. It's the DOJ. However, the DOJ is going to have a little problem with turning over documents from William Barr and Jeff Rosen and the former president. So if nothing else, this is going to make things difficult for the DOJ, and certainly Donald Trump. Donald Trump's not going to testify. So he's going to have to go through that whole fucking process there as well. So they thought they had Hunter Biden, but Hunter Biden, like I say, has a few tricks up his sleeve too. I don't know if Hunter Biden's that smart, but his dad happened to be in politics for 50 years and has a lot of people around him that know some shit. So if there is a fight to be put up for Hunter Biden, they'll know what the fuck they're doing. Now, in court papers filed Wednesday in a Delaware federal court, Biden's attorneys demand any and all records or documents related to his investigation on gun and tax charges dating back to January of 2017 to be turned over for review. The subpoena targets Trump, former Attorney General William Barr, former acting Deputy Attorney General Richard Donahue, and former acting Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen. Each had a hand in one way or another in the still ongoing investigation of Mr. Biden, either in Delaware or elsewhere. So Biden's going to the well, telling these motherfuckers, we want to see your shit and we want you to testify as well. Donald Trump is not going to be willing to do that. Trump and his allies launched an almost nonstop public pressure campaign to crumble the deal and sow doubt about the Justice Department's handling of the investigation. We're talking, of course, about the original deal that Hunter Biden cut, and he was going to get a little probation and some other shit. But Donald Trump's team, the Republicans, pushed real hard, forced the special counsel to re-engage, and then it turned into an investigation and now a prosecution. The deal was publicly criticized by Trump and fellow GOP leaders as a sweetheart plea deal and a slap on the wrist. From that point forward, Republicans pushed for more severe charges against Mr. Biden from the now special counsel in an effort to make Mr. Biden's prosecution an election issue. And that makes sense. This isn't even about the crimes he committed. It's about what happened after he cut the deal. Biden and his people are saying, we cut a deal. We were going to take our medicine, but then because of election issues, they decided to go after me harder. And if they find out that's true, Hunter Biden could get off this whole fucking thing, which would be interesting. One of the notes in the document says President Trump improperly and unrelentingly pressured DOJ to pursue an investigation and prosecution of Mr. Biden to advance President Trump's partisans' ambitions. Biden's attorneys argue that plenty of evidence already exists showing that Biden has been politically persecuted or prosecuted, including federal documents, Trump's social media comments, and Trump's plethora of concerning public statements. Interesting. That's very interesting. That's going to be a mess. It may go on for a long time, but I'm guessing Hunter Biden is probably going to once again get a slap on the hand and move on. I'm not saying Hunter Biden didn't do anything. I'm just saying that the Republicans do what they always do. They take little things, they exaggerate it, they hype it up to benefit them. And if that's what they did in this case, they're going to have a problem prosecuting Hunter Biden. All right. Former Trump campaign manager and White House advisor, of course, now he's a MAGA podcaster, Steve Bannon, is angry with the new House Speaker, Mike Johnson, after he passed a spending bill to keep the government open with the support of Democrats. God damn it, Steve. It seems like nothing is going your way. Bannon posted on social media Wednesday, summing up his position. This was a surrender. Cave to the Uniparty. It can't be looked at in any different light. Only win was the dropping of all supplemental Ukraine funding. Speaker now on the clock with 75 days to achieve conservative victories. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Bannon, you've been predicting all kinds of things from Donald Trump being established in the Oval Office to God knows what. And you've been wrong every time. You're a White House advisor who's always wrong? What a fuck up. Now, Representative Chip Roy took that a bit further and gave Speaker Johnson 10 days to come up with a plan to reduce spending overall. Roy's comments came after 19 hardline GOP members voted down a procedural move to advance another appropriations bill in protest of the continuing resolution to keep the government open through early 2024, which passed with 209 Democrats and only 127 Republicans voting in favor. Bannon addressed Johnson during his War Room podcast, saying, I don't mean to get on you, but we're going to get on you because you're on the clock, brother. Christian biblical viewpoint or not, you're on the fucking clock. And that's, this is what we know. They turn on their own. Bannon is currently pretty influential in the MAGA base, but that's like being the smartest dumb guy. That's who he is. And they were behind ousting Kevin McCarthy in the first place, which now they probably look back at as, oh, that was a fucking mistake. You told us yesterday you're running up on Fox all the time. You spend way too much time on Murdoch News. Murdoch News does not run the deal. You should understand that your predecessor was on Murdoch News all the time, and you saw what happened to him. Yeah, they have kind of a hard-on for Fox News these days. It's a little crazy. Now, while we were talking about Chip Roy did something on the House floor that I think a lot of Democrats agree with, and I think he's trying to fire up the Republicans. Representative Chip Roy gave a lengthy floor speech on Wednesday, blasting Democrats and Republicans over what he sees as the failed leadership of the country, particularly on the issues of cutting spending and standing up to adversaries like China and Iran. I love this. They want to cut spending. Well, let's cut spending. Let's cut spending by cutting the tax break to the rich. Let's cut spending by sending less money to the Defense Department. We already spend more than we need. But they don't want that kind of spending cuts. They want the spending cuts to come out of you and me. After throwing an elbow, not literally, we know they do that in the House, Nikki Haley for a comment that the anonymous online posting needs to end, Roy declared. This country is in trouble and the time for excuses is over. No more excuses. No more excuses from my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. But most importantly of all, no more excuses from my colleagues on this side of the aisle, he said, blasting his own party. Yeah, well, I got to tell you, one of the reasons you have a problem is because of fucks like you. You're the obstructionist. Now, Roy raged on. He said, I didn't come here for the Speaker of the House to assume the position and in 17 days, pass a continuing resolution off the floor of this House through suspension of the rules, $400 billion, including an extension of the Farm Bill that doesn't do anything about the Chinese Communist Party ownership of our lands, doesn't do anything to protect small ag and protect small ranchers from big ag and all the big corporate adventurers getting rich based on politics. When is it going to be enough? Oh, that's a good question. When is it going to be enough? Is 34 trillion of debt not enough? 2 trillion deficits not enough? Another American dying from fentanyl or from cartels? Terrorists coming across our southern border? Not enough? Babies being put in ovens in Israel? Not enough? Funny from a guy that represents a group that put $8 trillion into the debt while Donald Trump was in office. Oh, yeah, you're fiscally responsible. Later in the speech, Roy added, "For the life of me, I do not understand how you can go to the trouble of campaigning, raising money, going to events, talking to people, coming to this town as a member of the party who allegedly stands for something, allegedly stands for reducing spending, allegedly stands for eliminating debt, securing the border, strong military, ending the wokeness that is killing and corrupting our schools and our kids, and then do nothing about it." Well, that's what you Republicans are famous for, not doing jack shit. One thing I want my Republican colleagues to give me, one thing, one that I can go campaign on and say we did. One, he fumed. Roy then urged any other Republicans in the chamber to come to the floor and explain to me one material, meaningful, significant thing the Republican majority has done. And there's where I agree with them. They have done nothing. Absolutely fucking nothing. Anything that has been accomplished was accomplished with the help of Democrats. So who really has the power in the House? The Republicans are so divided they can't do anything. So their majority is for naught. In order to get something passed, like the debt ceiling or a budget CR, they need the Democrats to do that. And that makes MAGA mad. What they don't understand is it's their fault. They're the ones that have divided the Republican Party instead of unifying the Republican Party. And with a divided Republican Party, you get nothing accomplished. It's all well and good that Chip Roy is sitting here and bitching and complaining and finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel that 2024 is coming in a year and they've got nothing to campaign on. Oh, really? You just figured that out? We were talking about it from the moment you took over the majority in the House. But you're too busy trying to impeach Joe Biden without any fucking evidence. Nice job, you dumb motherfuckers. It's absolutely ridiculous. These people are unserious. They're like children, and they can't do anything but fail. And I sometimes feel the Democrats are just stepping back saying, let them fail, burn the fucker down, and then we'll start over with the Democrats in control. And unfortunately, that may be the only option they had. They had to get through the debt ceiling and the budget thing. They still have till mid-January or early February to get this done. But it should have been done 6-8 months ago. Shouldn't have been a problem. The only reason it is a problem is because of Republicans. Remember that. And you'll remember that when you go to the ballot box in 2024. All right. We are going to wrap up the Rational Boomer podcast. Remember, later tonight, I'm going to record, hopefully, if he shows. I don't know why I think he might not show, but, something could come up. He's a big star. He's got 6,000 followers on TikTok. God knows what could happen. Anyway, assuming he shows up, and I actually think he will because he's big on opening his yap and talking to large numbers of people, at least in his perspective. I'll record that tonight around 9-10 o'clock, and then I'll put it up after midnight, and we will see what we see. Not worried about it because he doesn't seem like an incredibly bright guy, and he's on the wrong side of history. So what, me worry? Anyway, I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you tomorrow, and hopefully it will be a very eventful and satisfying, and finally the opportunity to get this shit off my chest to some of these dumb fucks. Hopefully that will be the case tomorrow when you go reach for the Rational Boomer podcast on Friday. Have a great day. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.